everyone, I'm Dale Driver for IGN. I'm here at Gamescom 2022. I've just seen Alone in the Dark, so here's 5 things you might want to know. First things first is that this is not a reboot, or it's not even a remake, it's a reimagining. It's like a love letter to the original. The developers told me that they've taken elements from the first game. They've taken a piano that was there, a character that was written in a note, and then they've expanded upon these things, adding more to the world and basically telling their own story just in that Alone in the Dark universe. They're very much inspired by the first few games though, so much so that obviously some of the characters are maintained, but yeah, it's a whole new story to explore. So second up is the combat. Now this is survival horror, but it's not like some of the modern survival horrors where you just absolutely full to the brim with ammunition at all times, taking out every enemy that you want to. This is about surviving. This is about running away a lot of the time. So resources are going to be extremely limited. There's apparently even lots of weapons you can find on the floor, just objects that you can use to throw at the monsters, and just as a distraction technique, just to get away from them. I didn't get to see any of that, unfortunately, but I was told that there's tons of things lying around to throw at these enemies and to really make some space between you and all the threats. So although this is one singular story, there is actually 2 characters, like the original first Alone in the Dark, that you can choose. There's Edward Carnaby, who you might be familiar with, but there's also Emily, who you got to choose in the very first game. Now they're giving you this option is very much, what I'm told, very much like Resident Evil 2, in the fact that you've got 2 separate stories no matter what character you choose. Now whoever you choose is the lead protagonist, but the other character will get to experience a different path through this world. I don't think they're going to get to meet up too much, to be honest, from what the impression I got, but I do think that there's definitely a certain path each character has. So in a way you could say it's 2 stories in one. They were very clear not to say that, by the way. That's just me, but that sounds like what we're going to get. So the 4th thing is about the location, which is a giant manor house, which used to be a mental hospital, I believe, all based in Louisiana. So I don't know if you're like me, but in survival horror games recently, it tends to usually start off in one of these houses and then expand and go crazy places, where the reality is, I think the best storytelling usually comes from just exploring a creepy mansion and finding out its history, finding out its past and what's going on in there. Now the Alone in the Dark devs told me that this is what we can expect with Alone in the Dark. Yes, there is areas outside of the manor house, but mostly you're focused on solving the mystery and what's going on. Ultimately, you play as an investigator, so there's lots of investigatory work to be done, and that's where all this takes place, inside this manor house. Now the last thing is a playable teaser. Now to be clear, the developers very specifically told me that they have no plans right now to release it into the wild, although they did very much hint that they might. But it is available to play at Gamescom, so if you're at Gamescom, make sure to check it out. Go to the Alone in the Dark booth. It's called Grace in the Dark, where you usually play as a young girl called Grace, and it's more of a tone piece. It's more about exploring the world and the sense of the environment and what to expect in the final game. Like I said, not available online, but they've made it. I'm pretty sure it's going to come at some point. So that was 5 things about Alone in the Dark, and if you're like me and you're a fan of survival horror, I think you might want to keep an eye on this one. For everything else at Gamescom 2022, make sure to stick with IGN.
The house in New Orleans, they call the rising sun.